to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, August 8th. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined as always by my co-hosts and co-analysts, CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What is up, guys?
Hello again.
A lot.
Hello
How are you? What up?
Again, indeed. Oh, dual meaning there. Peeling back the curtain a little bit. This is not the first time we have recorded this show. This has been a night full of technical difficulties. So hopefully you guys enjoy the final product. So, yeah. We have an amazing show for you guys today. It's going to seem like deja vu for us, but a first time for you guys. Today, we are going to be doing our look at our consensus tight end rankings, taking an in-depth look at the tight end position. Of course, we're also going to bring you all the top headlines from around the league. Lots to get to today. So little time. Let's just push on through. Of course, as always, the bookkeeping. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the show. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, the works. Just basically search for the Fantasy Football Fanatics. You'll probably find us. You can subscribe to the show on Twitter. Follow us, submit your questions, get breaking news as it comes out in between recordings on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can join the community on Facebook at facebook.com/the Fantasy Football Fanatics. Most importantly of all, if you want to support the show, help us keep the lights on, keep us doing what we're doing. If you like the show and you want us to be able to keep making it, simply all you have to do, head over to patreon.com/the Fantasy Football Fanatics. And, helps us out a ton. And as we're not just going to take from you, we're going to give you something back. This gets you access to a lot of bonus perks, including a bonus episode every single week. So if 2 times a week is not enough for you, there's a third show available over on patreon.com/the Fantasy Football Fanatics. In fact, we're going to probably have a teaser episode, one of our ones we recorded a couple weeks ago. We're going to post out to the masses within the next week or so you guys get a taste of what we do over there. But, lots of all types of perks, including those bonus episodes, so check that out. And, of course, possibly the most important bit of news, things to get to before we get to the headlines, our iTunes Listener Review Challenge is going on now. As always, as we've been talking about for, a month now? If you want to play against me, if you want to play against CJ, if you want to play against Jason in fantasy football in the 2017 season, all you have to do is go over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, give us a review. That is it. And again, it doesn't have to be a 5-star rating, though we greatly appreciate that. That helps the show out a ton.
It has to be 5 stars.
According to CJ, it has to be 5 stars.
Don't even acknowledge us if it's not 5 stars.
I'm disappointed that Jason hasn't thrown out his patented Bring It yet. But again, if you want to play against us in fantasy football, iTunes Listener Review Challenge. Rating review at the end. Make sure you leave a Twitter handle or an email address so we can reach you if you are selected. And we're putting you guys on the clock. The deadline for submissions is on Monday the 14th, so this coming Monday. We will then be announcing the winners as they are randomly selected on Tuesday for the upcoming show, a week from today if you're listening to us on Tuesday, so that's Tuesday the 15th. You will then have 1 week to respond to the invite via email or Twitter, and if you do not respond in that time, guess what? Your spot's gone. It's going to go up to somebody else. This happened last year. We don't want to drop anybody. We don't want to leave anyone behind, but we've got a draft to get to. So you'll have 1 week to respond, and then the winners will have about a week to submit the style that they want to play in, whether that is, iTunes. Wow, we're talking about iTunes. Whether it's auction, IDP, standard, PPR, half-point perception, fab, 6-point per passing touchdown, the works. So that will be up until Monday the 28th, and then the draft, which is Tuesday night, August 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure your calendars are open that night because this is going to be a process. And then bring it. There it is. Okay.
Tacos?
Yep. So, I love tacos. So, full story again. If you want to play against us, iTunes, rating, review, and, the rest will happen. We'll break it down as we get step by step. So we're going to move past the warm-up question because there's so much to get to today. We're going to move into our top headlines from around the league, starting with the quarterback news, where the Miami Dolphins have signed, they've pulled out of retirement, quarterback Jay Cutler. They have signed him to a 1-year deal. This is post the news breaking that Ryan Tannehill, of course, the starting I almost said running back. The starting quarterback in Miami partially tore his ACL in his knee. This is the knee he rehabbed all throughout the offseason. Surgery is still currently being debated upon. So, guys, what are your thoughts on Jay Cutler becoming the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins? Because personally, for me, I see this as a pretty lateral motion. Now, they have different skill sets. Ryan Tannehill is more consistent, more dump-offs. Jay Cutler, though, this is huge for a lot of the weapons there. He's not afraid to throw it downfield, infamously known as a gunslinger. I think this is a big boost to Devontae Parker, to Kenny Stills. This is a massive bump to a guy that we're all relatively high on here on the show, Julius Thomas, because Jay Cutler loves his tight ends, which for some reason Ryan Tannehill seems not to be a very big fan. So, I don't know. I think that this is good news. Plus, for people concerned that he's coming in late, remember, Jay Cutler has played with head coach Adam Gase before. Adam Gase was his offensive coordinator in Chicago for the 2015 season, which was Jay Cutler's statistical best year of his career. So just putting that out there. Guys, what are your thoughts?
Well, I have to go just straight optimistic. I have to go with your approach, because when this news first came out, I put it on Twitter. I was like, just why? Why is this a thing? Why is Jay Cutler back in the NFL? Just because, this dude's everything that we've seen of this dude. I don't know if you can put it on just the situation that he was at, or is this his character? He's just not a leader. You know what I mean? And he's just he's just so annoying to me as a player. You just see him on the field. He gives no crap about anything, and that's frustrating. If you're a fantasy football player, if you just love the game of football, you just seen somebody go out there and just give two craps about nothing about football. So I'm gonna just say,
the man's character. Why don't you? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I'm just going off of what I see, man. What I see, that's what I see. So I'm going to just say maybe that was the situation in Chicago, because it kind of felt like ever since Adam Gase left, the talent just started slowly dwindling, and they didn't really properly replace that. So, I'm going to say that's the case. Now, him going to Miami, just like you said, he has a lot more talent than he had in Chicago. Maybe, it sparked some competitive juices out of him, and we get a good solid year. So I'm going to just say that. Maybe
yes, the weapons, a point I made on the last time we recorded this show. Much better weapons than he had that year in Chicago. Because remember, 2015, Brandon Marshall was gone. Alshon Jeffrey was one of his many injury-plagued seasons. Zach Miller was one of their main targets until he went down. It was just a wasteland there. Better running situation now. Much better pass catching situation in Miami. I hate to say it, but I kind of like Jay Cutler. I'm not drafting him, but I don't mind this move. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you have to remember, and CJ, I love the optimism, but he was the same way in Denver. I mean, he reminds me of a sullen kid that you see on the sideline. He's all ticked off because the coach sat him down, and he just sits there with his arms crossed and his lip out. I don't like Jay Cutler. I don't like him as a leader. I don't like him as a quarterback in this league. He's got talent. He's got a decent arm, but I don't like that. It's poison for your locker room because he's the leader. He's the de facto leader of that team, and he doesn't lead. And just like CJ said, he doesn't give a crap about anything. He sits on that sideline and looks like he doesn't care. Now, is he talent-wise a lateral move with Tannehill? Yeah. I mean, I think that's a little generous. But sure, he's not. I wouldn't say he's a significant downgrade. And as you mentioned, it kind of gives you an opportunity, fantasy-wise, to look at other people, such as Julius Thomas, who I'm very high on, and he loves throwing to his tight end. So that's good news. It doesn't give them a horrible drop-off. They don't have to rely on Matt Moore. Not saying that he did horribly, but he's not a starter. Whereas Jay Cutler, much as I don't like him, he is a starter.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, like I said, I don't see this as a downgrade, not necessarily an upgrade. I see this as a very lateral motion, and I think that different members of the offense will benefit in different ways. I don't see this being great for Jarvis Landry because there's not going to be as many dump-offs. Jay Cutler likes to force the ball downfield. So, and of course, my biggest concern with Matt Moore, we talked about this on Friday's show. If Matt Moore was the quarterback, when we saw Ryan Tannehill go down, we saw a massive uptick in volumes and carries for Jay Ajayi. But also, defense defenses didn't have to respect the pass as much, so they could stack the line. So it was kind of that, higher volume, less production per touch kind of thing. Jay Cutler, they're going to have to stay back because he will, like we've said now a couple times, hurl it downfield. So this is good news for Jay Ajayi for me and all the pass catchers that we previously discussed. I'm excited. I think that this was a potentially season-saving move by the Miami Dolphins. Is he the best thing, is he the best option in the league to quarterback this team? No, not even a little bit. But for the options they had available, this was a good move pulling him out of retirement. I do like this a lot.
I wonder how many interceptions he's going to have against the Patriots, though.
5?
Belichick's just going to just trash him.
5? Are you talking about over the season or just one game in particular?
Each game, the 2 games they play the Patriots, I wonder how many picks he's going to have.
4 and 5, it would be my guess.
4 and 5?
I don't know. That's really bad. Last time he was with Adam Gase, he cut down his interceptions pretty substantially, so maybe not. I don't know. But, we're spending too much time on Jay Cutler. We have a lot of preseason games to see how he integrates into that system, which he knows, but see, coming out of his brief retirement. So we'll get there. Let's move on. Running back news. There are new reports that are surfacing that Ezekiel Elliott's suspension should be breaking within the next few days. We should know soon. FS1's Chris Carter reported that, quote, in the next 48 hours, I would be shocked if Zeke was not suspended. Carter said that he believes that Ezekiel Elliott will most likely be facing a 4-game suspension. This is coming down from sources that he has high up in the league office. Now, Chris Carter was also the guy who broke a lot of the news before it broke to the masses on the Tom Brady situation back 2 years ago. So this is a guy who seems to be in the know, has some connections. So we've talked about this in the past, guys. Ezekiel Elliott, if he does in fact miss 4 games, this moves him down for us. We said 3 games was that threshold. So where does Ezekiel Elliott land now within your rankings? When are you taking him?
I'll tell you in a couple days. We don't know for sure what's going to happen. And I said this when we recorded the show the first time. Chris Carter really doesn't know what's going on yet. He's reporting based on things that he's hearing, and that's wonderful. But until I hear for sure that he's going to be suspended for 4 games, then I'm not moving him in my rankings. Not just yet. Now, and again, if he gets that suspension, he could very easily appeal that, and he could play for a while during the season while they're going through the appellate process. So we will see what happens. At the moment, I'm not moving him down my rankings.
I mean, I can see both sides. I see Jason's point about the appealing thing, and which is legit. But for me, just going off of this news, I would say the furthest he would go is the second round. I think still the second round because you're kind of getting on Doug Martin territory. He's got a 3-game suspension, and you're going to come back. So I think you would draft a couple other running backs and just a placeholder, and then you can still have your guy.
Now, for me, because again, I do a very stats-based process for my rankings. It's not all just, I like this guy, so I'm going to put him here kind of stuff. Taking out 4 games, that's a substantial chunk. You have a 14-game season in your standard leagues. Week 15, 16 is your playoff standard. This moves him down to about my running back 6. So that's definitely second-round territory, and I don't think that anyone would let him slip any further than that because, when he's on the field, he was the leading rusher last year. So, look, it's scary to me, though, if he does appeal, Jason, because then we don't know when the suspension is going to hit. For all we know, he could end up serving his suspension during your fantasy playoffs. I would honestly rather he just serves the suspension right off the bat, and that way we can all move forward. And hopefully, people don't overreact to it like what we saw with Le'Veon Bell when he was dropping down to the 3rd round, and he ended up, when he's in, he won a lot of people leagues. So, I don't know, and it's all up in the air because the league has a minimal 6-week process for domestic violence, and a lot of the news that's kind of leaking out surrounding details of the case involve things like how he may have been assaulted this woman up to 5 times in a 6-day period, like a lot of really dark stuff here. So we'll know more soon. It's heavy stuff. So the suspension is most likely coming. The time period, when it's happening, the length of it, yet to be known. Stuff to keep an eye on, but odds are, I'm feeling Ezekiel Elliott will probably not, when we get to draft season in just a couple weeks, be people's third running back off the board. I just don't see it, at least with what we're hearing now. But we'll see. Let's move on. The Minnesota Vikings have activated running back Latavius Murray off the physically unable to perform list. So, guys, Latavius Murray is back in the rotation. Dalvin Cook has had a great offseason to this point, building rapport with the offense, getting adjusted to the NFL level. What is the impact of Latavius Murray rejoining this offense?
Well, I mean, it's going to be good for him to knock the rust off. And, just off the money wise, he is being paid to be the starter. But, like I said before in our previous show, I believe that Dalvin Cook is going to be the starter. I think we all agree when it comes there. It just depends on when. I think his talents fit Sam Bradford a lot better because, Sam Bradford is that check down guy. If it's not there deep down the field, he's checking it down to Rudolph. He's checking it to his running backs. So I think Dalvin Cook is going to be a guy that's more explosive, more versatile, that can be able to benefit Sam when it comes to that. And then really when it comes to this running game, you kind of got to go a clean slate. Like you can't try to project it off of what happened last year because last year was a hot mess. I mean, it was the line couldn't block for crap. The running backs couldn't really get anything going, but the guy that was beneficial, even in that trash of a line that it was McKinnon. And because, Bradford was checking the ball down to him and he was getting some yards. Now, granted, he didn't get a lot, but he was still getting something. So that's something you got to take into account.
Jason?
I agree with CJ. I see Dalvin Cook as being the guy in this particular offense. And that offensive line is still not the greatest. And Murray's used to running behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. He's used to having just a solid line, not getting touched until he almost is in the secondary. So, and the fact that he didn't do much in Oakland, we've talked about this ad nauseum. The fact that he didn't do much behind that line, honestly, that shows that he can't be the guy. He may be a scoring threat, but he is not going to be the primary guy. I think that Dalvin Cook gives them a new dimension. He's more talented. I definitely think that we're going to see Dalvin Cook as the starter sooner rather than later.
See, this just concerns me because Latavius Murray, like you said, I agree with everything you guys have said. None of us really like his running technique, and that's what the biggest knock on him through his career is that he's got all the measurables, but he doesn't seem to have the talent to put it all together. He runs very upright, and this is a big problem. But he is one of the best red zone backs in the leagues based on purely a touchdown number. He had 12 of them last year. Now, we all attribute that to his great offensive line. He's going to Minnesota, which has a questionable offensive line. And I'm just concerned that Latavius Murray is going to limit red zone touches. I think Latavius Murray, when they get into the red zone, especially in what people like to call the 10 zone, which is kind of a newer term, rushing between the 10-yard line and the score, first and goal, he's probably the guy who's going to be in there. I think that it's going to be, I think maybe Dalvin Cook will be probably the lead back. Maybe it's a 50-50 split committee. I don't know. But Dalvin Cook will be the pass-catching back. He'll be the guy that we think will get the majority of the touches. But Latavius Murray is going to cap his scoring opportunity. That's what kind of concerns me here. And so I honestly don't know where this is going to fall into my rankings because, we heard early reports that Latavius Murray could possibly not even return until after we were into the season. And, of course, he will be around this year because, like CJ brought up, he's being paid. They can cut him next year, but this year it costs them more to cut him than to keep him, so he's going to be there. So it's another dreaded committee. Some committees are beneficial to both backs, some are toxic, and I don't have a good feeling about this one. So we will know more through watching the first couple weeks of preseason. Week 3 will be very telling. Even though it's going to be very vanilla, we'll see some stuff. Let's move on. The Florida Football Insider's Roy Cummings reports that Doug Martin has received, quote, the bulk of the first team reps in Tampa Bay, end quote. So, guys, what are our thoughts on Doug Martin? Because I can't think of a single player, as long as I've been doing fantasy football, that has had so many drastic redirections of his trajectory and his projections throughout one offseason. You know, he went from being early on a guy who was probably going to be cut to a guy who was in amazing shape, and, you know, the team was sticking behind him, to now he might not have a starting job when he comes back from suspension, to now getting all the first-team reps, seemingly solidifying his role in that offense. What are your guys' thoughts on Doug Martin? Because honestly, I'm a little over it at this point. You know, lots of news sources reporting the exact same thing at every stop.
You know, I think that Doug Martin is the conundrum with him is that he's hurt a lot. You know, he's off the field a lot, but when he's on the field, he plays very well. I mean, I've heard the motivation issues and things like that, but bottom line is he is the most talented back that they've got there. So if he's healthy, he's the starter. He's getting the rock. And I think this is going to be a good year for him. I really think that it's kind of a breakout year. There's a lot of talent that they've added to that team to give Jameis Winston more opportunities. So that opens up running lanes for Doug Martin, and also it's going to get him some passes out of the backfield. I think he's going to have the opportunity to really show us something this year.
CJ?
Yeah, I agree with Jason, man. It's to the point now, you know, negative or positive. I'm not really swayed when it comes to out of Tampa, man. I like Doug Martin. I think he's poised to have a great year this year. I second everything that Jason says. So, you know, if I see him there, you know, depending on the situation, depending on what round it is, I see him there. I like him. I'm going to draft him. And then I'm just going to just stick to my guns because I just have a good feeling about Doug Martin this year.
Well, I mean, he has slipped down into the 5th round now. So, I mean, for that value, yeah, sure, I'll pick him up. 3-game suspension. You know, he's going to miss another week at some point because there's a bye week. But, you know, a guy who, look, I think everybody's getting just a little bit too cute right now because we're trying to read in all these reports. And this isn't just stuff coming from the team. It's come from the beat writers that are covering the team and all this other stuff. So there's reason behind every single sway and redirection that we've seen. But at this point, Doug Martin, as you guys have said, he is, when motivated, which is a big thing, but he's definitely motivated right now because he's playing for his NFL career. He is the most talented guy in that backfield. He's being paid to be the starter. And when he gets back from this suspension, I think it's safe to assume, not based on especially what we're hearing now, he's going to be the guy there. They like Jaquiz, and they like a lot of the other guys that they have in-house, but Doug Martin is their lead back. They paid him as such. They're going to use him as such. So that's my interpretation going forward, unless I see definitive reports to derail that thought process now, because I'm tired of the redirection, all the coach speak, everything that's coming out right now. So I'm just going based off the gut and what common sense tells me. So with that, let's move on. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
The New York Jets 6th-round rookie running back Elijah McGuire, I believe is his name, is seeing reps with the first team. Now, I didn't really take this as anything of note, mainly because we know Matt Forte is dealing with an injury. They've got other problems with Bilal Powell being injury-prone. So, I mean, it makes sense that he would be getting first-team reps because he's probably going to see snaps at some point during the season. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I mean, he was a 6th-round pick, not exactly a high draft pick.
Well, listen, you got to understand and get in the mind of the Jets organization. They want to get that first-round pick. So, you know what I mean? They want that number first overall.
They want to scam for Sam.
You want to scam for Sam. So, you know, you absolutely don't want to put any talent out there. You know, you want to get bottom of the barrel at least. So I never even heard of this Elijah McGregor. You know, so whatever.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you two? During the draft,
we talked about him.
Griffin called him McGeary. Remember?
Listen, he's a jobber.
Look,
okay,
I'm really bad with names. You know this.
This is a jobber. So jobbers don't ever get their name pronounced correctly. You know, that's just how it is.
Now, remember, we talked about this way back in our draft analysis shows that we were doing. He is a very good pass-catching running back. It was a very deep running back class. Most people had him going in the 4th round, but obviously slipped to the 6th. You know, Jason, you are by far and away the most college draft-oriented one of the three of us. What are your thoughts here?
You know, I'm not sure what to make of this because, yeah, he's a talented back, but he's a rookie, and they've got 2 guys that are starters, that are proven starters in this league. And yeah, I know about Forte's issues right now, but you still got Powell there. I don't know if they're trying to save his legs or what they're trying to do here. It's very strange. Maybe there's an injury we're unaware of. Maybe he's playing a little bit lame. But bottom line is, if he's not injured, then I don't understand this. And like you guys are saying, it could very well be that they don't want to play any of their good players this year. They're gonna pull an NBA.
They are tanking.
and tank. For that number 1 overall draft pick. I mean, it's possible. I can't see them doing that in New York because I think that the fan base would eat them alive. But
I don't know about that.
This is strange to me.
They've been going through a lot of foolishness these last couple of years. I think if you, I don't just like I agree with you. They'll never come out and say it that they're tanking, but I think a quiet, shy wink in the gun, the fans will appreciate it.
Yep. I think Jets fans as a whole, and I've talked to various Jets fans as well, are all accepting the fact that 2017's season is playing for 2018. So they're going to do what they have to do, and hopefully they don't get a couple meaningless wins in there that ruin what could have been, like a couple years ago. A lot of people like to point out the fact that if they hadn't gotten a couple late wins in that season, they would have had probably Marcus Mariota on their team right now, and we could have a completely different outlook on the team. So, we'll see how it all plays out. Of course, no team can really tank because jobs are on the line. That coaching staff, I know they're reshuffling their plan, and this is a youth movement, and they're rebuilding. They blew up the team, which, back in 2015 was a decent competitive team. They were a 500 club, and, they were, if they made a couple good adjustments, maybe they could have gotten over the hump. I don't think they were beating the Patriots, but, been competitive. And, it just wasn't the case in 2016. They decided to switch it up. So maybe the coaching staff is safe, but nothing's guaranteed in this league, so I would assume not. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't know. Let's move on. I think this is, for lack of a better word, kind of, I don't want to say fake news, but just it's coach speak. So let's move on to some wide receiver news, where Miami Dolphins head coach Adam Gase has said that Jarvis Landry is under investigation. Now, this investigation reportedly involves him and the mother of his child, and early indications and expectations are that it involves some form of battery between the two. So look at an investigation for Jarvis Landry, who this could also lead to a suspension if that is the case. This is very early. We don't really know much more. Not much to talk about here other than informing the fans about a guy who's going relatively high in drafts. Anything you guys have heard that you want to add to this? Nope. Okay, let's move on.
No, actually, that's the first I've heard of it, and that's kind of scary. Especially given their situation right now.
I'm glad that I can be the one to break news for you two. Let's move on to New York, where the New York Giants, where wide receiver Sterling Shepard. Look, I started reading one thing, I wanted to say another, it just didn't work. Let's move on. Wide receiver Sterling Shepard.
You need New York.
Yes, he was in a walking boot for one day after being carted off the field, as we reported on Friday's show. He has since been seen walking, having shed the boot without a limp. So indications seem to be pointing towards him being ready for the start of the season. The low ankle sprain, something that he seems to be bouncing back from. So I'm honestly plugging him right back in where I had him. I had made some adjustments, giving a boost to Brandon Marshall and taking him down, assuming he was going to miss some time. Not knowing the severity of the injury. Once we heard it was low ankle, I was ready to return them to where they were. Again, kind of Control-Z, undo. And, I have him right back where it was. You guys, any concerns here?
All I can say is, whoo!
Yep, a nice sigh of relief there. Let's move on to New Orleans, where Ted Ginn Jr. is listed as the starter opposite Michael Thomas in the New Orleans Saints' first unofficial depth chart. So, guys, is this shocking to you?
No, not at all. Ted Ginn Jr. is a veteran. He's a speedster. He's a very good receiver. He played on an extremely good team. So, no, it doesn't surprise me at all.
I just think Willie Snead will probably be even more effective and more efficient in the slot than playing outside. So, I agree with this.
Well, I'm just saying Ted Ginn Jr. is currently going as the 57th wide receiver off the board as the 4th pick in the 13th round. If he is, in fact, the number 2 receiver on that team, hey, there's a value there considering Willie Snead is going in the 6th round as the 30th wide receiver off the board. Now, by most accounts, Willie Snead will probably be manning the slot, so he'll probably be a much more consistent contributor. I don't think this really changes much. It was just intriguing because Ted Ginn running as the number 2 wide receiver was unexpected. I thought he was going to be kind of that third option when they do a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. I don't know.
A lot of 3 sets.
I expected this and that's why I had him as a wide receiver too. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, look at you. All right, let's move on.
The
Washington Redskins wide receiver Josh Doctson, who left practice on Sunday with a hamstring injury, got an MRI which revealed a, quote, slight pull. He is listed as day-to-day, so, no tears, which was the initial concern. Back to business as usual, but, of course, hamstrings tend to linger, so possibly make adjustments to Josh Doctson depending on how long this knocks him out. This is a bit of upsetting news for me because I was hoping he'd come to Baltimore. Unrestricted free agent wide receiver Anquan Bolton was signed by the Buffalo Bills on a 1-year deal. He is reuniting with quarterback Tyrod Taylor, who he spent time with in Baltimore. So, yay, Anquan, boo Zay Jones, boo Charles Clay. This downgrades basically everyone but Sammy Watkins to me in that offense because Anquan Bolton, if nothing else, is he had 8 touchdowns last year in Detroit. He's used heavily in the red zone. I don't know. What are your thoughts, CJ?
Well, I'm about to say this is a great addition to the offense, brings some veteran leadership, but I don't think you should just basically clear the board and start from ground zero when it comes to now he's in there. He's a great piece, but I don't think he's going to be a dominant piece in this offense.
No, I think he's going to be a move the chains red zone weapon. Okay. Jason, what are your thoughts?
This guy's a beast. I would not be surprised if he didn't start out getting sprinkled in a little bit and then etched himself out a normal role as one of the top 3 receivers on that team. He always kind of does that. He always kind of comes in and like, oh, this will be a nice piece to have. And then the thing with him is he has so much that he can do after the catch. He's so difficult to bring down. So I definitely see him getting kind of a pretty good contributing role in Buffalo. I don't know if he's going to be the number 2 overall guy, but I would not be surprised.
I just wanted him back in Baltimore. Is that so much to ask?
He won a lot of things in Baltimore. Maybe
why? So he can rip his hamstring?
Look, we've lost so many pieces. We need new ones. And he has rapport with quarterback Joe Flacco. Moving on.
If you stop breaking your toys, then you won't need new ones.
I'm not breaking anything. They're breaking themselves. The New York Jets are placing starting wide receiver Quincy Enunwa on injured reserve with a neck injury per sources.
This team.
Yep. Now, I mean, look, maybe it wasn't that bad, but they're like, oh, he's hurt. Scam for Sam, IR. So, I don't know. It's unclear if this is season ending or short-term IR. This is very breaking news, very recent before we started recording, late on Thursday night. So, we'll report more as we know. Monday night, sorry. We'll report more as we know. But I would say if he will be out because he's on IR. So Robbie Anderson and Austin Severi-Jenkins, to me, get a really big bump here because they're going to get a lot more volume. I'm still not reaching for either of these guys, but they could be some nice sleeper candidates. What are your guys' thoughts?
Ugh.
You guys remember that movie, that football movie, The Replacements, with Clifford Franklin
Love that movie.
And Flacco? I think those are going to be the guys playing on this team by the time we get into the actual season. Man, and to get some Clifford Franklin out there running down the field. I don't know what in the world's going on out there. I'm wondering if this is not some giant plan that they've got. Quincy Enunwa, neck injury, IR, get him out of there for the season.
Boom.
And then they start next year, and they've got Sam Darnold out there, and they've got a healthy Quincy Enunwa, and so I don't know. Am I saying that's happening? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying this is very strange that all of their top guys seem to be missing suddenly.
Don't hide it. Jason is saying that. Go ahead, Jason. CJ.
I feel like the ownership is kind of like that cockroach off of Family Guy that's off in the quarter, just like good. Everything is going to plan, man. Everybody is just falling apart, and they're gonna get their guy next year at the draft, man.
We'll see. Let's move on to some tight end news, where Seattle Seahawks tight end Jimmy Graham said that he feels, quote, almost 100 times better, end quote, than he did last season, and apparently has trimmed down from about 280 pounds to 260, so he's getting back in shape.
Almost.
His knees feeling better. 100 times, that's a lot
Almost.
better.
No, not 100 times. Almost 100 times.
Almost.
Almost.
He's not quite there. He's not yet fully operational. I mean, I know Jason and I are incredibly high on Jimmy Graham, as we'll get into in our rankings. CJ is high on him as well. So this is just good news. And, this doesn't sway my ranking of him either way, because I couldn't really move him much higher than where I have him. So let's move on. Bit of other news, and this is borderline comical. Jacksonville Jaguars left tackle Brandon Albert has decided to report back to the team. Now, you may have wondered, why do I know this name? Because about a week ago, we reported that he had announced his retirement. Apparently, no official statement has come out from Brandon Albert's camp, but apparently when he had the revelation he was going to have to pay back about $3 million to the team, that might have been a motivating factor. Some are saying he maybe just was trying to skip the conditioning portion of camp. Who knows? But either way, this is a big boost to a Jacksonville Jaguars offense, which needed help on the offensive line. This helps the running game. This helps Blake Bortles. I like this news. Do you guys have anything you want to add to this?
You know what happened? Brandon went home and went to his wife and he said, "Honey, guess what? I retired. I can spend more time with you." She said, "You what? Get your butt back on that field." That is exactly what happened. That's why he's back. I guarantee it.
Wow. He took a page out of Ben Roethlisberger. He was like, "All right, I'm about to retire." He looked and able to see who paying attention.
Nobody cares?
Nobody cares? Oh, no, you know what? I was just taking some time off. My shoulder was kind of hurting.
Well, it's not even that nobody cares, because if Ben Roethlisberger had actually retired, Pittsburgh would be in a tailspin. It was that nobody believed him. So
no one believed he was going to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, last bit of news. San Francisco linebacker Malcolm Smith is out for the season with a torn pec post and MRI. So that's a huge loss of that defense and something to take note of if you're playing in an IDP league. So, all right. With that, let's move on to our topic of the day, which is our consensus tight end rankings. Now, if you guys could see our document, our show doc, our rundown, it's a little bit how we like to say things. It's a very colorful document because I painstakingly go through and color coordinate everything based on things advancing, regressing, things of that nature. It looks like Christmas with all this coloring, and very little has stayed the same from when we recorded our early ranking show about 3 months ago. So we're going to start with the number one consensus tight end on all three of our boards unanimously. We all agree, and you probably should as well, Rob Gronkowski, New England Patriots tight end. He is going as the first tight end off the board, as the 7th pick in the second round currently. We all have him as number one. Guys, tell me why Gronk, coming back from injury, should be the top tight end taken in fantasy drafts.
Well, there's a couple reasons. I mean, first off, he's the best tight end in the league. I mean, he's just that dominant. He can take over an entire game himself and make a defense just absolutely pay. Now, another thing that's working in his favor this year is that the fact that New England has just added so many weapons, and they've got so much going for them. They've got a great offensive line still, so that's going to take the pressure off of him a little bit. He's still going to be the guy. He's still going to be the guy that offense runs through. But the fact that there's a lot of things, there's a guy that can take the top off the defense now, and all that's there. They have to worry about the whole field. They can't just key on Gronkowski and Edelman anymore.
CJ?
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I love all the additions that New England has brought in, because I think it does nothing but benefit Tom Brady, benefit Rob Gronkowski. I love the fact that earlier on in the offseason period, we heard that he's healthy. Bill Belichick said basically the training wheels are off. He's full go. He's good. There's no signs of the previous injury. He's good to go. So with Gronk, anytime that you can be able to get him on the field and he's good to go, that's good to go for your fantasy team. And this is one of the reasons I have yet to get Gronk, just because it's always been too rich for my blood. But he's undoubtedly the best tight end in football.
Yeah, and like you guys have said, he is back. I mean, this team won a Super Bowl. They have done nothing but add. But even with all the additions that they have done, the rapport that Rob Gronkowski has with Tom Brady, with the system that they run in New England, with how dominant he is as a player, and how heavily he's going to be featured in the short to intermediate and in the red zone. I mean, he is a focal point of that offense. Most would argue that he is the focal point of that offense. So him being back, everything else is going to be complementing him. He has been taken as a first-round pick for a number of previous years in fantasy leagues. The only reason he's not right now is because, of course, he missed a portion of last year. He was injured, but we have seen him do plenty of off-the-field stuff to show that he is a full go. All reports are saying that he is good. I mean, there's no reason not to believe in Rob Gronkowski. Yes, he could get hurt. Yes, he has an injury history. But if you draft cautiously like that, you're going to be drafting a bunch of nobodies and players that you don't want at positions. You don't want to be drafting them in your league. Sometimes you have to roll the dice, and Gronk is that guy. Like CJ said, I usually have very few shares of Rob Gronkowski unless it's an auction league because he goes way too early for me. I wait on tight ends. But I mean, if you have been following the show this offseason, there's a number of times where we were doing mock drafts where he would slip out of the second into the third, and even I was like, hey, guys, Gronk's there, and we can get him. And I think we took him a couple times. So, I mean, he's an amazing talent, a lot of production. You can't go wrong with Rob Gronkowski. If any games that he plays, he is in your starting lineup. So with that, let's move on to hopefully some more controversy down the line. Starting with our number 2 tight end on our list, in our rankings, we have Jimmy Graham of the Seattle Seahawks, reminiscent of his days in New Orleans. He is as the number 2 tight end, and he has moved up from our previous rankings. We had him as the number 5 tight end for us. Now he's moved up to the number 2. Took a small jump for me. He took a small jump for Jason. He took a big jump for CJ. We all like Jimmy Graham. Guys, talk to me about Jimmy. Why is he our number 2 tight end?
Well, for me, why he jumped up a little much for me is I'm going off to, I guess I'm being a little optimistic because I want to see what he can actually do. I mean, his first year with them, it was, not a lot going on. Last year's pretty good. This year, I need to see more. I mean, I understand what happened last year with Russell Wilson and the offensive line, but you're getting a healthy Russell Wilson. I like the addition, not really additions, but I like the rising stars that are coming out of their wide receiving core. I like the upgrade and bringing in Eddie Lacy. If this is the Eddie Lacy from a couple of years ago, I think that's going to be beneficial for them. But I just need that chemistry with him and Russell to go up a notch and for him to be able to get back because he hasn't really been that dominant tight end like he was when he's been playing with the Saints. Ever since then, he's basically kind of just tailed off. Now, granted, this is a new system, everything like that, but, after year 2, you would kind of think that this is when, a tight end and a quarterback start to, really gel and mush and start putting that on the field and start being productive. Now, granted, his year 2, Russell was hurt. So I'm hoping that everything gets put together this season and, we start to get old Jimmy Graham back that was rivaling Gronk as the number 1 tight end.
Well, also, granted, in 2015, he tore his patellar, and then he came back from it one offseason later, which had not been done previously, and went out and he had a number 4 performance amongst fantasy tight ends. He had a great 2016, and nobody was expecting anything from him, us included. We told everybody, wait on Jimmy Graham, stream him, pick him up, week 3, week 4 when it looked like he was going to come back, but he was coming back slow. And if you followed our advice and picked him up week 3 or week 4, you got amazing production from this guy. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said so far. I mean, this is his 3rd year with this team. And again, magical 3rd year. And Jimmy Graham is absolutely one of the best athletic tight ends in the league. And the rapport that he is getting with this team is excellent. He's going to be a great red zone weapon for them. He's going to get lots of yardage. It is hard to cover this guy. That's the thing about Jimmy Graham. That's what made him so great is what do you cover with him with? You can't put a corner on him because you got receivers you got to worry about, and the safeties usually can't handle it. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him play. Not when he's playing my team, but other than that, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him play.
I mean, I have him playing all 16 games this year, so therefore I have him being healthy, full go for all 16, so we gave him a slight bump in yards, a bump in touchdowns, and so that gets me about 120 targets, 90 receptions, 1,025 yards and 8 touchdowns. And, that's with me bringing him down a little bit because I thought I might have been a little bit high on him, but still that stats him out as my number 2 tight end. I believe those are very obtainable numbers. There's no reason he can't do that. I mean, he is going to be, with the weapons they have in Seattle, they have a run game again, which is, huge for them because that was anything but consistent last year. They have a healthy Russell Wilson. The offensive line is going to be better this year. Jimmy Graham is their top pass-catching target in the red zone. He could best those numbers. So Jimmy Graham is a guy that you can get later in your drafts. And, I mean, we all have him, of course, as our consensus number 2. He's going currently as the 5th tight end off the board. He's actually dropped since we did our last show. He's going as the 3rd pick in the 6th round. And why he's dropping is beyond reason to me because, I mean, this is a guy that I think will outperform that relatively easily. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Number 3, we have Travis Kelce, who has also taken a bump for us. He was our number 4 tight end. He's now our number 3. I have not moved on him. He's still my number 3 tight end. CJ, a bump up to number 2. Jason, you have him the lowest at 4. So CJ, tell me why Travis Kelce is your number 2 tight end over the Jimmy Graham that we just talked about.
Well, I just look at the position. I mean, with the departure of Jeremy Maclin there, I see him taking a bump in production. I mean, he was already rivaling to be their top target as far as receiving and receptions. I see basically him and Tyreek Hill, basically running, having the keys to this offense. It's going to be either him or Tyreek Hill, where Alex Smith going to be passing to. So I just look at the lay of the land, and I say, hey, Travis Kelce, I think this is going to be a big year for him. I think the one knock on him has been touchdowns, and I think this is the year for him to be able to get an increase on that just because of the departure of Jeremy Maclin.
Or will it be Patrick Mahomes? Jason, your thoughts?
Not yet.
You're the lowest.
Not yet.
No,
yeah, I'm the lowest. Not yet with Patrick Mahomes. I love Patrick Mahomes. I wanted him on the Cardinals. I wanted him to be the heir apparent, but he got snatched up way early in the draft.
Way early.
As far as Travis Kelce, way early. As far as Travis Kelce goes, I mean, he's still in my top 5, so I have a lot of respect for him. He gets a lot of targets. That is actually my issue. I think that he's going to get less targets this year because of Tyreek Hill, the coming on of Tyreek Hill and how dominant that he can be. You've also got 2 very good running backs that catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't believe in Spencer Ware, but you've got him paired with Kareem Hunt. That's going to take away some of those mid-ranged targets that Kelce is used to picking up. So overall, it's mainly just there's more options there, and I think that he's going to take a slight bump down in in targets. I think he'll still be extremely productive. And he may get a slight bump in touchdowns when they get down to the red zone. But overall, I think he's going to take a step down. And mainly, he's number 4 for me just because I believe in my top 3 tight ends.
See, I strangely enough reflect pretty much exactly what you just said. Now, I don't have him taking like a serious drop like at all, honestly, because we saw a huge bump in his production when Jeremy Maclin was down. Well, Jeremy Maclin's not in Kansas City anymore, so it is Tyreek Hill and it is Travis Kelce as the main pass-catching options. Now, Travis Kelce led the entire team last year with 117 targets. The next closest person was Tyreek Hill at 83. So, I mean, he is already heavily featured in that offense. Now, I have him actually going up in targets and receptions, but I have him, they're going to use him, I think, more as they move the chains, as much as they love to use him to also go deep and do all types of crazy things. I have him going down barely in yards, but I think he's going to go up a little bit in touchdowns. I have him getting about 6 this year because he's just not that guy. He hasn't been that guy. The offense doesn't use him that way. He's been a big target, big reception, big yardage tight end, but never really high on the touchdowns. I mean, he had 4 last year. His career high is 5. So, that's the knock against him. I think he gets to 6 this year, and, that stats him out comfortably as my tight end 3, and I I think that's obtainable, especially with what has to be increase of volume. And yes, they have pass catching backs, which are going to keep the line honest. They're going to keep the linebackers having to keep an eye on them, spying on what they're doing in the backfield, because they could easily run some 2 running back sets and have why do I keep saying Jamal Charles there? Charkandrick West and Kareem Hunt doing all types of pass catching stuff. Spencer Ware, of course, can catch the ball, but he is a very good north-south runner. Well, very good. He is probably their best north-south runner that they had last year. I don't know. There's no reason that he shouldn't be ranked where we have him. And honestly, we're low on him because we have him as our number 3. He's currently going as the number 2 tight end off the board as the first pick in the 4th round, which, hence 1 pick difference, so I guess not the end of the world. Let's move on to our number 4 tight end, which is Greg Olsen. Now, Greg Olsen has taken a drop for us. He was, last time we recorded this show, our number 2 tight end. He's now our number 4. And this is because both myself and Jason have dropped on him a little bit. So, CJ, you and Jason are tied at 3, so one of you guys tell me why Greg Olsen should be going this high.
I would just say consistency for me. In the offense, he's Cam's safety blanket. He's Cam's guy last year. He looked for the most just because he was consistent. His other wide receivers were struggling. This year, of course, you got the insertion of McCaffrey and that kid Samuel. So they got some youth pieces when it comes to that, and I kind of feel like this is going to be like a fast-paced offense. Check downs and everything. But I still feel like Greg Olsen is still going to put up his numbers. You can't. There's no argument to say that he won't. You just look at this dude's track record. Man, it's hitting 1,000 yards year after year after year, season after season after season, and Cam continues to look at him. He's just that guy that you can just put there and go like, okay, I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to worry about what kind of numbers he's going to put up because he always puts up numbers.
Yep. Jason?
Yeah. To me, I take a fight term when I look at Greg Olsen. He reminds me of a nice, comfortable left jab. You're okay throwing a left jab. You don't have to worry about sticking your chin out. The left jab is going to be there, and every now and then you're going to connect really, really good with that stiff left jab, and that's what Greg Olsen is to me in this offense. He's their left jab. He's the guy that's always going to be there, always going to be available. He's going to beat whoever he's against. When he's up against a safety or a slot corner, he's just going to beat those guys. He's proven it time and time and time again. Now, the reason I bumped him down just slightly, and again, it wasn't much of a bump. We went from 2 to 3. But the reason I bumped him down a little bit is Cam Newton becoming a pocket passer worries me quite a bit. I think it's going to throw off his rhythm. He's going to have problems finding his targets. So that could cause a problem. But Greg Olsen is going to be there. And like we said, he always looks for Greg when he's in trouble. And I think he's going to be in trouble a lot this year.
You got to make him respect the jab, Jason. Good, strong, powerful jabs.
Absolutely.
You don't throw it out there for no reason. And that's what Greg Olsen is. Look,
right.
He was their top targeted receiver last year from the tight end position, just like Travis Kelce. He was the only 1,000-yard receiver, just like Travis Kelce was in Kansas City, here in Carolina. 3 touchdowns. That's where it really fell short. And a lot of your concerns and why you bumped him down are exactly why I bumped him down. And honestly, I kind of want to bump him down more because there's all these extra targets now. They're going to be dumping off short a lot to Christian McCaffrey more. Greg Olsen is yet another year older. The guy he's 32, so he's not ancient, but he's up there. And I don't know when the production is going to go down with a pocket passing quarterback who does not do well when pocket passing. So, I like the guy. He's pretty comfortably statted out where I have him at number 5. Kyle Rudolph, who is my next highest rated guy, is right on his heels, so I could easily flip-flop those guys and be comfortable with that as well. Look, he's going to get volume. He's going to get targets. He's going to get you production. The red zone and the overall yardage is what concerns me this year based on all the things we've talked about. I still have him as my number 5 tight end, and I don't hate that. is basically where it's at. He's going to be good. I think his ceiling has become more capped this year than it has in years past, which is why I bumped him down a bit. He's currently going, though, as the third tight end off the board as the fourth pick in the 5th round, so we're low on him as a show, just by a little bit. Let's move on to number 5, a name that you may or may not have been expecting to have heard by now, which is Jordan Reed. Washington Redskins, now he is dropped in our rankings. He was our number 3 tight end. He is now our number 5 tight end, and that's because all 3 of us have dropped him in our rankings. And who wants to start here? I'm actually the highest on him, and I'm not really sure why, because I honestly need to adjust him a little bit more. I wanted to drop him. Yeah, I know. I wanted to drop him lower, but the news seems to be suggesting that he is, in fact, day-to-day. He's going to be hurt. I already put into my calculations that he was going to miss about 3 games. He could miss a 4th and still finish roughly where I have him. Jordan Reed, look, when he is active, we say this all the time, he should be in your lineup. He's just like Gronk, a freak athlete, a play-making weapon at the tight end position. He gets touchdowns, he gets yardage. His problem, always hurt. And that's the narrative around him, which is what scares us right now when we're hearing about a toe injury. So it's just one of those things where you take the good with the bad with this guy. Luckily, it seems like a lot of people are starting to feel the same way because he's actually been dropping since we recorded. He's dropped a couple spots as well with his average draft position. He was going as the 3rd tight end off the board. He's now going as the 4th, as the 6th pick in the 5th round. If Jordan Reed was there in the 5th, would either of you pull the trigger on him? Because you guys draft tight ends earlier than I do. I wouldn't, just because I don't draft them that early. So that's a no from Jason, who has him as his number 7 tight end. Jason, you are the lowest out of the 3 of us.
The 5th. I don't know. It has to depend on what I'm looking at and what I've drafted so far. But it's just, I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm in the middle because I already feel what Jason is going to say, so I'm not going to steal his thunder when it comes to that. But it's like Jordan Reed, it's like, man, enough is enough. Like, come on, man. Every single season it's something, dude. But just like you said, Griffin, when he's out in the field, he's getting those points. He's making crazy catches, man. He's getting you excited to look at that position and go like, you know what, that's my tight end. That's my dude. But it's like, once again, man, every single season it's something with these injuries. Man.
And he has by far the best rapport with Kirk Cousins out of the pass-catching options there, too. So it's just so tempting.
Make him great. Kirk Cousins makes him great and gives him those opportunities. But this is, it's just a headache, yo.
Jason, you're the lowest. Take it home.
So I only dropped him 1 spot. I had him ranked at 6th. I dropped him to 7th. I would just like to say that is a major show of respect for his talent from me, because I hate this guy. Okay, and not his talent and not the guy. I just hate the fact that he's never available. Okay, he's like,
right.
He's just a letdown because he's got all this talent. He's tantalizing. You look at him and you're like, God, look at that talent. He's got the ability to just take over a game and destroy. And then, except he's sitting on the bench. You can't destroy from the bench. Can't do it. So yeah, I don't trust him. Would I take him in the 5th round? Absolutely not. I wouldn't take him until much later. I'm not looking for Jimmy Graham until probably the 5th round or 6th round. So, and he's my 2nd rated guy. So no, 5th round, absolutely not. Would I take Jordan Reed at all? It would need to be much later than everyone else is going to take him. So he probably will not be on my team.
He played in 12 games last year, hobbled in a number of those. CJ and I remember talking about how his shoulder was basically separated from the rest of his body out there trying to play. So I would say he actually played in about 9 games last year, realistically, and he still was the 4th most targeted player on the team, only a few targets behind Jamison Crowder. So, he's featured in that offense. When he's healthy, he's going to get you production. You just are rolling the dice when you draft this guy. Yep. This is one of the few guys that you might want to think about handcuffing your tight end and grabbing Vernon Davis a little bit later. And that's the thing you might have to do if you like Jordan Reed, because he's always hurt. He has never played a full season. So, in his entire career. So, just saying. And that's why I think we've all dropped him, because he's currently injured, and that has us a little skittish, a little scared off. So, again, we have him as our consensus number 5. just one spot lower than the average. Most people have him as their number 4. So what are you going to do? Let's move on to our number 6 tight end, a guy who has moved up quite a few spots from number 8 to number 6. We have Kyle Rudolph, Minnesota Vikings. I have not moved on him. He is still my number 6. Both of you have moved him up. CJ, you moved him from, what was it? You moved him up to 6. Jason, you have moved him up to 5, and that was from 7 and 8 respectively. Guys, I'll throw it to Jason because you're the highest, and we know how much you love Kyle Rudolph. You're always talking about him. Why should we be drafting Kyle Rudolph as a top half tight end?
The more I do my mock drafting, and the more I look at his stats, and the more I look at this offense, the more I really do like Kyle Rudolph. Sam Bradford being there is the big deal maker. I mean, he loves to target his tight ends, and Kyle Rudolph showed last year that he is absolutely able to handle that volume and really move the chains and do some good things. I think this is going to be an even better year. Bradford's had an opportunity to have a full off season with Minnesota. They've added some other pieces, take pressure off a little bit. So I think Kyle Rudolph is going to have a very, very good year this year, and that team is going to be productive because of that hookup between Bradford and Kyle Rudolph.
I agree with everything what Jason says, man. I've absolutely loved Kyle Rudolph for years, and I've just been waiting for a quarterback to make him relevant. I thought I had it in Teddy Bridgewater, but it was spotty. It wasn't consistent. But when Sam Bradford came to Minnesota, I absolutely knew that this dude was going to be able to get and make Kyle Rudolph the guy like I knew that he was, and he's been doing it. Now this is year 2. You check the track record with Sam Bradford and his tight ends in year 2. They always take a bigger step. They get more consistent and get more points. So I think Kyle Rudolph is that dude. That's why I like him, and that's why I have him as my number. What was it? Number 5?
You have a number 6.
Number 6 tight end.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't moved on him, and that's because my opinion hasn't changed. Kyle Rudolph, as you've mentioned, with Sam Bradford, is a beast. He finished as the number 3 tight end last year, only less than 1.5 points behind Greg Olsen, mind you. So he could have easily been the number 2. He led the entire position in targets. He had 132 targets. You want to guess how many targets the next highest player on the Vikings had?
85?
60.
It was a little bit more than that. Stephon Diggs had 111, so it's about 21 more targets than the next guy. And then you're looking at 92 for Adam Thielen and then 70 or less for everybody else. So, I mean, look, he was the main target. He didn't get to 1,000 yards, which, I mean, some would say maybe that's the knock. But he had 7 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's a lot better than a number of the people we've already talked about. So, and not much has really changed. They've upgraded the running game. Stan Bradford's still there. They have, a healthier, hopefully much more productive offensive line. Kyle Rudolph is primed to have another great year. And for some reason, which I cannot fathom, we have him as our consensus number 6, which is roughly where we all have him ranked individually as well. He's going as the number 10 tight end off the board, as the 9th pick in the 3rd round. So, or the 3rd pick in the 9th round, rather. Sorry.
I was going to say, that's really high.
Whoa, so early. Yeah, 3rd pick in the 9th round. So, guys, this is why I wait on tight ends. So, again, Kyle Rudolph, draft him with confidence. Nothing has changed. He's probably, if he doesn't lead the team in volume, he's still going to be a major contributor and obviously a target in the red zone. He will get you production week to week. Very consistent player last year as well. Moving on to our number 7 tight end, a guy who did not move in our rankings. He was our number 7 3 months ago. He is still our number 7, and that is Tyler Eifert. Now, I have moved him down from number 8 to number 11. CJ has moved him down from number 6 to number 7. Jason has moved him up from number 7 to number 6. So let's throw this to Jason, who is the highest, so it makes sense to start there anyway. Why did you move up Tyler Eifert?
Well, honestly, Tyler Eifert did not move within my rankings. It's just people moved around him. That was kind of how it happened. I had people moving up and people moving down. That's kind of where Tyler Eifert fell in the rankings. As far as keeping him in place and not dropping him, in my mind, It's really just because his opportunity in that offense is still going to be there. There's not going to be good protection from that offensive line. We've already talked about that a lot, and that means lots of dump-off type passes, which means you're going to see some production from the running backs and from the tight end. And if Tyler Eifert can stay healthy, he is one of the more talented tight ends in the league, so he's going to get lots of production. Again, it's a question of whether he stays healthy or not for me.
Yeah, for me, I see the situation there. I like that. I just really like all the pieces that are around Eifert. And you guys have your feelings about the offensive line. I kind of feel differently. I think that they have pieces in place that it's it's next man up. You know what I mean? And they drafted those pieces a couple seasons ago, and it's time for them to shine. And you see what's going on. And we'll see in these preseason games how that looks. But I like John Ross there. I like Joe Mixon there. I like the other pieces that are around there. And if Tyler Eifert is healthy, he's shown that he can be a dominant factor in this offense, and he built a rapport with Andy Dalton, and he's brought him points. The only question is his health. That's the only thing that's been on him. So if his health is good, he's kind of like a 1A 1B when it comes to Jordan Reed. If he's healthy, he's good. But if he's not, then he's questionable, and it sucks.
The difference between Tyler Eifert and Jordan Reed, though, is noticeable because though they both are targeted and they get a lot of touchdowns, that's really all Tyler Eifert is good for. Tyler Eifert, his best finish in his entire career was just barely over 600 yards, and that was his magical 2015 season, which, oh, by the way, he's never played a full season. He's always hurt. 600 yards.
Right.
He is incredibly boom bust. And that year where he had 13 touchdowns, of course, that was huge, but wildly inconsistent as well. I had him on my big League of Record team that year. He would go through spurts where he would get 3 touchdowns in 1 week and then get you no yards and no touchdowns the next week. So between the inconsistencies and the injury history that he has, that's why I have him as my tight end 11. I still have him as number 1 because, boom bust. He will win you weeks, but he will also lose you weeks. So you're kind of rolling the dice with him. So, that's why I couldn't knock him out of my tight end 1s, because he will probably, with his great weeks that he'll have mixed in there, he'll probably finish as a tight end 1 as long as he can stay healthy. I just don't feel comfortable week to week with him. He is a matchup streamer for me. And like you guys said, he's got a role in that offense. The offensive line, which, as we've covered extensively, is going to be towards the bottom of the league, if not one of the bottom. They've upgraded the running game, which is going to help the pass catchers out there, but who knows how productive they're going to be behind that offensive line. Of course, AJ Green is back. They drafted John Ross, but guess what? He's hurt right now as we speak. So helps Tyler Eifert.
Big knock on John Ross too.
That is, he's always hurt. So this whole team is very volatile, it seems. So it's just a lot of question marks, which is why I'm lower on him. But the upside is obviously there. You can't dispute that. So Tyler Eifert, draft him at your own risk. I can tell you that I will not be drafting him in the 6th round. He's currently going as the number 6 tight end, so one spot ahead of where we have him in our consensus rankings. He's going as the 10th pick in the 6th. So you guys can all have him there. I won't be a part of that. Let's move on to our number 8 tight end, which is a guy who I actually need to move up. I did some restatting, but it did not reflect in the rankings. Julius Thomas, Miami Dolphins. Now, I'm actually the only one that moved him down since the last time we were here, and that's just because, again, like what happened earlier with Jason, I moved other people around with my statting of players out, and that's just kind of how he fell. He was our number 10 tight end. He is now our number 8. I have him at 9, CJ at 10, Jason the highest at 8. I'm shocked that I'm not the highest. Jason, let's start with you, buddy. Why are you the highest on Julius Thomas? Why should we be drafting him as a top 10 tight end?
And he's going up in my rankings. I'll tell you that right now. Couple reasons.
From 15 to
first
8.
off, this guy is very, very prolific when he is healthy. We saw him in Denver. We saw how good he could be. He's just a really big receiver. He's got a lot of great skills, good hands, understands where to be on the field, can find the seam, can beat the safety, no problem. Now you add in the fact that he's going to an offense where he flourished. Okay, so he's going to an offense he's used to, where he is featured, and he flourished there. And you also add in the fact that they're now bringing in a quarterback who also flourished in this offense. They had both of them had their best years when playing in this particular offense. Okay, and we're talking about Jay Cutler, who likes to throw to his tight end anyway. So those two things combined, along with just how talented he is, yeah, I definitely see him taking a big bump up this year. He's a new face in a new place, as is his quarterback, so that's something to keep track of. But the talent of Julius Thomas and the fact that this offense is going to feature him is a major deal to me, and that definitely puts him in the top 10. And like I said, I'll be moving him up. He might even end up in my top 5.
They're going to bond over both being new.
Wow.
It amazes me that I'm the one that's been beating the drum for Julius Thomas, arguing with you guys over this in months past, and now here I am not the highest on him. But that's also because I haven't made adjustments yet for the addition of Jay Cutler. Looking at my stats, how I have them right now, I can pretty easily say that he is going to jump up to being, at the very least, my number 8 tight end. Possibly my number 7, and that's just at initial look without doing all my stats rework. For all the reasons you've said, and I've covered this extensively. You've followed the show. Julius Thomas thrived in this offense. He averaged 12 touchdowns a year, which is huge. He did this, of course, with Peyton Manning during a historic seasons that he had towards the end of his career. But, the system has proven to work almost anywhere that Adam Gase has been. They bring in Jay Cutler, who, that was the reason why I didn't have him higher in my rankings initially, because, again, Ryan Tannehill does not target his tight ends at all. So now you've got a guy who focuses on tight ends, a guy who knows the offense, a guy who's good at the offense, two guys who should connect. Of course, the main knock against Julius Thomas is with a number of these guys, he's never played a full season. So you are rolling the dice with this guy. It tends not to be as consistent in playing hobbled. It's usually something that'll knock him out for a couple weeks. You just kind of accept that and roll with the punches. So that's the only reason why I also have him where I have him. There's a concern factor. I have him only scheduled to play, with the way I have him statted right now, I have him only in for 13 games this year. So if I add a game, he easily jumps up to my tight end 6, I think it is. So I don't know. It's just the way it is. CJ, bring us home.
Well, listen, I'm like this. Maybe I was not high on Julius Thomas at all. I mean, just off his couple years in Jacksonville, it kind of brought me down when it comes to him. But, I'm going to take a little optimistic approach on this. Maybe, this is kind of like a situation with Jay Cutler at Chicago. You go to a new place, more familiar surroundings as far as the culture, the coach, scheme. Maybe that brings something out of him. Now, just like both of you guys have said, with the health thing, that's something that you might just not be able to escape from, because, he has a very, very long track record of being hurt these last couple of years in Jacksonville, and hopefully, he can shake that off and play a full season for you and with the Dolphins. But so that's basically where I look at it. I mean, I'm not too high on him being my number 10 tight end. I would love to drop him down further, but the other talent there, this is where I put him. I feel like I gotta put him there until he proves me wrong.
That's fair. Anything you guys want to add before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Nope.
All right. Well, with that, let's move on to a guy who has kind of plummeted down our rankings. He was our number 6. He's now our number 9, and that is Delaney Walker, Tennessee Titans tight end, and all three of us have downgraded him. I took him from number 9 to number 13, CJ from number 5 to number 9, Jason also from number 5 to number 9. Julius Thomas, by the way, we have him as our number 8. He's going as the number 16, as the 10th pick in the 13th round. So again, wait on tight ends. That's what I do, and this is why. All right, Delaney Walker is our number 9. He's currently going as the number 8, as the 10th pick in the 7th round. Guys, why have all three of us downgraded Delaney Walker?
Just because the additions in the offense. I mean, you bring in Eric Ducker, even though, we reported Corey Davis' injury, we feel like he's going to have at least a role in this offense. Then you got the running game. It just looks like he's not that guy anymore that's going to be that guy anymore for Marcus Mariota because the plethora of weapons that are still there, and even Rashard Matthews, I think he's still gonna have a role in this offense. So, for me, I see him. He's still going to be a factor when it comes to the red zone, but like he was before, with the yardage and the receptions, I think that's all dropping down, and that's why he dropped him out, and for me in rankings.
Jason?
Yeah, Delaney Walker is he's a sneaky pick because no one ever expects a lot out of him, and then he always kind of delivers a little bit. But part of that has been there hasn't been a lot of pass catchers in the past on this team, and like CJ just mentioned, they added a bunch this offseason. They want to be able to air it out a little bit more and throw the ball down the field a little bit more, while keeping that exotic smash mouth intact, which is I think what they've done. So as much as I like Delaney Walker, I had to move him down just a touch because I do believe that he's going to lose some of those targets. They're going to go other places.
Yep. Yeah, and I have him outside my tight end ones, which feels really low, and I'm going to have to probably revisit that because I think he still has the potential to be a tight end one. I like him as a tight end two for reasons that have been mentioned. Look, yes, last season, Delaney Walker, he was the most efficient pass catcher on the team. Yes, Rashard Matthews had 108 targets, 65 receptions. Well, Delaney Walker had 102 targets, 65 receptions. So he was better on a per-catch basis. He had 7 touchdowns, this, that, the other. But there are 2 other big wide receivers in town now. Rookie Corey Davis, a top 5 draft pick, who, yes, is dealing with a hamstring injury currently and is not listed as day-to-day. He's listed as week-to-week, which is much more serious, so, we'll see, but he'll be back at some point. Eric Decker is in town, who is a number 1 receiver. He's kind of like a 1A, but, in a team like this with all these other options, with this exotic smash mouth football running attack. Exactly. Some other talented people in the building as well. Rashard Matthews, as we mentioned, CJ mentioned that he's going to still have a role in this offense. There's just so many targets and so few, passing attempts to go around. Yes, Marcus Mariota, he did throw for 3,400 yards, and he missed a couple games. So not great. I don't know. I'm just, my biggest concern is literally just that there's not enough volume to go around. Too many mouths to feed, and I can't find a way that he gets back to being a solid tight end 1 with everything else they're trying to do there. I don't know. Do you guys think I have him too low, honestly? Because, the way I have him set it out, I'm very comfortable with. But you guys have him much higher, and you both are in line.
You're always low on tight ends anyway. Not
in my stats and projections, just when I draft them.
No, it's just like we said. It's just, to me, on the outside looking in, it's just like it's a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of new pieces there. And when it comes to Marcus Mariota, that this is good. I think it's going to be good for him as a development as a quarterback. But when it comes to him and his relationship with Delaney Walker, I don't think he's going to be relied upon that much for Marcus Mariota because of all the other pieces there, especially when you bring in a veteran like Eric Decker. I think, him and Decker are going to have some great chemistry early on in the season. And once again, I think that's going to take away from Delaney. Even the running game, I think that's going to take away from Delaney. And then the other receivers, especially when Corey Davis started doing his thing, like even when we were talking about in the draft process, he's such a fluid and very talented and athletic receiver. He ran for him as a wide receiver in that draft, he ran the most crisp routes out of anybody in that draft, and he made it look like he was already NFL ready off the break. So I think those are just pieces that are just taken away from him. And when it comes to red zone, I think that he's still going to be good, but just overall yards and receptions, I think that's going to take a big dip, just because all the talent that's around.
Oh, no, I agree. And we're spending way too much time on Delaney Walker, so we have to move on. But let me just throw a stat line out to you guys. With everything we've talked about, tell me if this seems realistic to you. I have 88 targets for 54 receptions, 742 yards, 5 touchdowns. Does that sound realistic to you guys?
I think the yards probably got to go down a little more.
Even less yardage?
Yeah.
Jason?
Probably
I would expect less, maybe I would say don't touch the yardage. I would say the touchdowns will probably go up.
Up? Yeah, and that's the thing.
Yep.
Not a lot of touchdowns.
He's a big yardage getter too. When he's healthy throughout an entire season. And again, that's going to go down because you've got so many people in that offense now. But I think that he's still going to be that security blanket for Mariota.
He very well could be, but just because he's a security blanket doesn't mean he's getting touchdowns. I don't know, and I could adjust the touchdowns either way, and he still stays right where I have him. So I don't know. I'm very comfortable with that evaluation because I honestly think that's realistic. He could easily get 6. I don't think he gets more than 6, honestly. Just the too many mouths to feed. Marcus Mariota, who has never finished a season either, by the way, in his young career, he only had 26 passing touchdowns. So not exactly a high-scoring passing offense because they run the ball a lot. So, I don't know. We're spending way too much time on Delaney Walker. We are, as a show, a little low on him. We have him at 9. He's going at 8, so not terribly. I don't know. You both have him at 9. I have him at 13. So we're all not that far off, and for reasons we're discussing. Let's move on. Number 10, we have Jack Doyle. Now, Jack Doyle, he has moved up into our top 12, was not in our top 12 last time we did the show. He is, of course, the Indianapolis Colts' new starting tight end. I did not move him at all. I still have him at 12. CJ has moved him down to 11. And Jason, you have moved him up to 14. So, guys, talk to me about Jack Doyle. CJ, you've moved him down, but you're still the highest on him. So let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I still like Jack Doyle.
Well, obviously.
I mean, I like him. I like the relationship that he has with Andrew Luck. And, even if Luck doesn't play and start those 6 games that reportedly he's going to be injured. Well, 6 weeks, I'm sorry. But, what you call it?
Possibly.
Even if the backup possible is possible. Strongly, though. But your man, the backup tight end, the backup quarterback, that's going to be his friend, is Jack Doyle. You know what I mean? He's not most likely going to be able to get the ball down the field like that. So, his guy is going to be Jack Doyle. And I still see Jack Doyle be productive in this offense. Whoever's the quarterback, I think that's his thing. You saw last year, when they stopped playing with him and giving his targets to Dwayne Allen, he was effective. He was that guy. He was starting to be a rising star for the tight ends that you'd be able to pick up if you missed out on the big names. He was a guy that was rising up, and you be able to claim off of waivers, and he was putting up good numbers for you. So I've just taken that and projecting that and seeing that he doesn't have any foolishness going on with Dwayne Allen. With the Patriots, so I see him being that guy and getting those yards, getting those receptions and touchdowns.
Who are we hearing is going to start for the Colts in preseason? Is it Stephen Morris or Scott Tolzien?
I think it's Morris.
Yeah, I haven't either. We'll know soon. All right, Jason, what about you? Jack Doyle. Like I said, I haven't moved on him, so you're the lowest. So and you've moved him up. This is very, very weird. See, just the highest by moving him down. You're the lowest by moving him up. So let's go to you. What's changed for you with Jack Doyle?
Well, I was very, very low on him before, and I felt like I was too low on him before. I mean, he's a starting tight end. He's got one of the better quarterbacks in the league throwing him the ball. And that's really the reason I moved him up, was that Andrew Luck, I believe in. I don't think he's going to be gone 6 weeks. He is going to miss a little time, but I doubt it'll be 6 weeks. So he'll be back. And I think that Jack Doyle is going to be the beneficiary of those targets. And as CJ already mentioned, when there is a backup quarterback in there, he's going to be a nice security blanket. He's going to get a lot of yardage. He's going to move the chains. I am not a Jack Doyle fan by any stretch of the imagination. I feel like I have him way too high right now. But looking at his stats, I couldn't really justify moving him any further down than 14 at the moment. But we'll see what happens as we go forward. If it does come out that Andrew Luck is going to miss 6 games, then yeah, I will drop him down again and keep him down this time.
I'm sorry. Tolzien is going to be the starter. I'm sorry about that.
He is officially. Okay, thank you.
That makes sense.
So for me, I have not moved Jack Doyle. I have had him as a tight end 1, a low tight end 1, but a tight end 1. And it's because, also we're not sure about Andrew Luck, as we've been saying. But in that offense, he was productive last year as the backup. He is now the starter, and I've talked about this in the past. When Andrew Luck is healthy, he throws to the tight end in the red zone more than any other quarterback in the league. I think it was, what did I say the stats were last time I researched this? Like about a 40% margin he's throwing to the tight end. That's huge. And so Jack Doyle's a guy who you can get in the 12th round. He's going as the 13th tight end off the board. I have him at 12. He's going in our consensus number 10. So, look, the opportunity, the volume, the touchdowns, everything is there. It is really going to boil down to if Andrew Luck plays. And, there are drastically different stories and reports and indications going in both directions. So we unfortunately do not know anymore right now. We will hopefully have clarity soon. And so I'm not moving him. Where I have him comfortably statted, and it lands him at 12, and I could easily give him a boost from here comfortably. So I like Jack Doyle, and at number 12, for me, I'll take him there all the time. Double-digit rounds. Let's do it. All right, let's get through these last two rapid fire. Number 11 has not moved for us. He was 11 last time. He still is now. Zach Ertz, Philadelphia Eagles. Now he has remained at number 11, even though he has dropped in both my and Jason's rankings, but he has moved up, shockingly, in CJ's rankings. So CJ, our resident Eagles fan, tell me why Zach Ertz is your number 8 tight end.
I love what I'm hearing out of camp, man. I love what I'm hearing with him and Carson Wentz. They're building a good relationship. It looks like it's more natural instead of it being forced. I mean, they look like they're connecting with each other. So I'm just taking that, projecting it going into this season. Hopefully we get a full 16 games out of Zach Ertz that's showing this good talent, which he is. I think he's hands down a top 10 tight end. I just need his production to be better. If we get that, then he'll stop being Mr. November and start being Mr. Full Season.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, he's a decent tight end, and as CJ said, I like the rapport that he is that he's developing with that young quarterback, Carson Wentz. It's just that he hasn't been consistent enough for me. Like we mentioned, if the whole season was played in November and December, then Zach Ertz would be the number one tight end in the league. But I got to see him sustain that throughout an entire season.
Yeah, I agree. I have him at 17, which feels uncomfortably low, borderline disrespectful, until I dive into the stats. And bottom line, like you guys have been pointing out, he's very hot and cold, and I'm worried that he's not going to be able to get hot this year with the addition of Alshon Jeffrey, with the addition of Torrey Smith, with Jordan Matthews and Nelson Aguilar still there, with all these reports coming out saying that they're going to be involved in the offense. How much is going to be available to him? I still have him getting, about 580 yards, 52 catches, and I have him getting about 5 touchdowns, which honestly I feel pretty comfortable with. Could he go up from there? Absolutely. If there's injuries, could this skyrocket? Sure, but we're also talking about an offense, which it was Carson Wentz's first year, but Carson Wentz left a lot to be desired last year. I mean, he only threw for, how many yards was it? 3,700 yards and 16 touchdowns, so that's not a lot to go around. I expect him to progress in his second year. I'm not expecting a slump, but these are my concerns, and that's why I have him as a tight end too, and right in the middle of that tier. He did have the second most targets on the team, so I will give him that. Carson Wentz does look for him, but with all these extra targets, it's hard to say which way he's going to go initially. Anything else you guys want to add, or we want to wrap this up with the last guy?
Let's
wrap it up.
All right, he's going as our number 11. He's going as the number 12, as the 4th pick in the 11th round. Our final pick, and you guys have some explaining to do. At number 12, we have Jason Witten. How he is a top 12 for us, I am waiting to see. I have not moved on him. He is my number 19 tight end. CJ, you have moved him up to number 13. Jason, you have moved him up to number 15. He's currently going as the number 17 tight end off the board, as the 12th pick in the 13th round. So, CJ, as our resident NFC East fan and the person who is highest on him, I am sure I can guess your argument here, but tell me why you have Jason Witten rated as highly as you do.
Listen, he's dropped down drastically when it comes to yardage and touchdowns, but it always seems like he's always there. I mean, and now with Dak Prescott, I'm looking for Dak to take a big step this year and being more risky, with the ball. But one thing I don't see changing is him checking the ball down to Jason Witten. Jason Witten, it felt like last year, he was always there, and he always looked like he had like five to varies from 5 to 10 receptions and a couple touchdowns. That's how it just always looked. So I'm just taking that, projecting that this year. He until I get him out of my life, I have to continue to respect him and put him, in my top 15 as far as tight ends. So that's why I have him where I have him.
All right,
now,
Jason.
I'll say this about our rankings: none of us ranked him as a number 1 tight end. None of us.
Which shows the discrepancies after this.
Big time discrepancies after Jason Witten here. So, yeah, it's strange. It's strange to be defending this because I wouldn't take him as a tight end 1 at all. However, as a tight end 2, I can absolutely see taking him as a 2. He is the ultimate security blanket. He's the ultimate guy that you throw the ball at, he's going to catch it. He's always going to be there. Dak Prescott has developed a rapport with him, and I like that. And the fact that he's not going to have Zeke for a part of the season, more than likely, that just makes it all the more that he's going to be looking for shorter passes where he would normally hand the ball off. Not to say that that running game is going to go down much, because they still have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They still have some decent running backs behind Ezekiel Elliott, but Ezekiel Elliott is on a different level. So Prescott's going to be looking for those shorter intermediate routes. That's kind of what he did a lot of last year, and Jason Witten's going to fill that bill.
I'm not going to contest anything you said. I agree with everything, so we can basically get out of here. But I can tell you why Jason Witten is our number 12 tight end. Because of CJ the Hitman Hickman here. For instance, Kobe Fleener, I have at 7, you have at 11. CJ has him at 33. Eric Ebron, I have at 8. Jason, you have him at 10. CJ has him at 34. Martellus Bennett, I have at 10. You have at 12. CJ has at 32. So a lot of these players who would be in our top tier.
They were in our top tier last time.
Where previously Eric Ebron was. They're all being driven down by CJ the Hitman Hickman. So,
well, listen, Martellus Bennett, if you've been smart and actually listen to this man, he tells you that he's not a fantasy tight end. He is a reality football tight end. So why in the world would you actually put him up there when the man is telling you that don't draft me because I'm going to disappoint you every single year you do.
For all the counter arguments that we have had throughout the entire offseason. Okay, that wraps up our consensus top 12 tight ends. A quick rundown of our next tier of tight ends. At number 12, we have Jesse James. At number 13, we have Kobe Fleener. At number 14, we have Austin Hooper. At number 15, we have Eric Ebron. At number 16, we have Martellus Bennett. At number 17, we have Hunter Henry. At number 18, we have CJ Fedorowicz. At number 19, we have Evan Ingram. At number 20, we have Cameron Brate. At number 21, we have David Njoku. At number 22, we have Zach Miller. Number 23, O.J. Howard. And number 24, we have Dwayne Allen. So, guys, that wraps up our top 12. Again, to recap the number ones, Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham, Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed, Kyle Rudolph, Tyler Eifert, Julius Thomas, Delaney Walker, Jack Doyle, Zach Ertz, and Jason Witten. So, that's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Friday when we are going to be continuing our consensus rankings, and we're going to be starting with the running back position, specifically going through our running back ones, and this is where it starts getting a little bit juicy. As we mentioned at the top of the show, if you guys want to play against the three of us in fantasy football in 2017, bring it on. All you have to do is head over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, give us a rating, give us a review. That's it. And then you are automatically submitted to be randomly selected to play against us in fantasy football. The deadline for submissions, as we mentioned at the top of the show, is Monday the 14th. So this coming Monday. So get over to iTunes, give us the ratings, give us the reviews, and then you have a chance to be selected and possibly have the glory of beating us in fantasy football. Probably won't happen, but it could. Bring it on, as Jason likes to say. All right. Please make sure you guys subscribe. Again, we're all over the world. iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, works. And just keep coming back every Tuesday and Friday, or catch an additional show, which usually airs on Wednesdays, over on patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. And again, follow the show on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or you can follow us all individually. I am at GPalmerFFF. CJ is at CJ Hickman89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. So with that, we're going to move on to our Patreon show, which is talking about the waiver wire / streaming options in our consensus rankings for the quarterback and the tight end position. So if you guys enjoyed the show, again, as we mentioned extensively, please rate, review, subscribe. Any parting thoughts, fellas?
Guys, please rate, review. Come join us on the Listener League. I'm getting tired of beating these two guys, okay? It's getting old. I want to beat somebody else.
Whoa,
help us out.
He has had one good season, and it has gotten to his head.
One good season.
One good season.
Was I not in the championship game the year before last?
That's true, but you lost to me, yes.
Did I not beat you in the regular season?
Ooh, mic drop. And that one good season. There it is, that one good season. All right, we're out of here.
That would be the year before, though.
No, it's not. We're getting out of here because we're already over an hour and a half. So take care, everybody.
Go ahead.
We will see you on Friday, unless we see you over on Patreon. Take care. Have a great one. Bye.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down.
A little homework, everybody. Go watch Charlie Chocolate Factory.